two, three.
What do you think that why did you have a dad program? What is it that dads in this generation is struggling with the most?
Yeah. Well, so, and those things still exist, being the provider, being the disciplinarian, that a lot of times that's a role that a dad takes on both because they feel more like they're fitting into their role, right? You want to be able to do the things that stereotypically help you think like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing, and also, the mom would like that too, usually, right? So those things still exist, and at the same time, there's more of actually wanting this relationship and believing that that's something that is part of it. This the relationship with the kids, guiding their behavior, helping to shape who they are, helping to think about their education, and so it's just, and then of course everybody knows there's less time for everything, and we're all distracted on our phone. So it's just even more and more kind of pressures on you know the many we're pulled in more directions, I think, as a result. But I also think it's who would want to miss out on? I think a lot of dads have opened their eyes to the fact that this is this incredible relationship they want to have, and they want to get it right.
Welcome to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio podcast and television show, where we explore the tools, strategies, and mindset shifts that empower you to live with greater purpose, success, and fulfillment. I'm your host, Myrna Young, and today we're diving into a topic that impacts families, communities, and future generations: the role of fathers and how they can become more present, connected, and influential in their children's lives. Joining me today is Dr. Josh Davis, a neuroscientist, author, executive coach, and expert in human performance and behavior change. Dr. Davis has spent years studying how the brain works and how people can create meaningful transformation in their lives. Through his amazing dad program, he's helping fathers develop the mindset, emotional intelligence, and practical skills needed to build stronger relationships with their children and lead with confidence and purpose. In this conversation, we'll explore the neuroscience behind effective parenting, why small changes can produce remarkable results, and how dads can overcome common challenges to become the fathers they truly want to be. So, whether you're a parent, coach, leader, or simply someone interested in personal growth, this episode is packed with insights that can help you create deeper connections and lasting positive change. Please help me welcome Dr. Josh Davis to the show. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have this conversation, and you've got that radio voice. All right, bring it on.
Wonderful.
Awesome. All right. So, as we dive in, Josh, what inspired you to create the Amazing Dad program? And what challenges do you see fathers struggling with most today?
Yes, yes. So, kind of two things converged to make these programs. One is that I've been teaching something for many years that recently I've also written a book on, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And I'll say more about what that is. But it's an extraordinary set of tools, just in brief, right now, it's an extraordinary set of tools for how we can change quickly and in lasting ways, and how we can help others too. And as a dad of three, I love being a dad, and it's I've seen firsthand how I get to use these tools with my kids, also with my wife, harmonizing the house, learning to have different reactions to my old triggers, finding ways to set boundaries and still communicate and have the lines open, being able to play at times and at other times, be the leader and the authority. that these are things that, I'm getting to run with these things and enjoy them and play with them and just like really get to like embrace being a dad. And don't get me wrong, like I lose my temper and I have hard days and everything like that, but I also bounce back quickly, and I also, have all of these tools at my disposal. And my wife and I now, she has them now too, and so we were able to support each other with that. And so this is, I'm looking at this and then I look at other dads, right? And I know a lot of dads who really want to be there for their kids and want to be part of the family. This is, I think, a phenomenon that's occurring more and more these days, that you have dads wanting to step into this dad role and not just say like, okay, I'm just going to go to work and you handle it, but instead actually picking up a lot of the challenges and how do I really lead the kids and be there and support the whole family, and in addition do my work and build my business, right? And there's so little for dads. And so that's what I was realizing was like there's just I mean, there's almost nothing for dads. It's, there's for moms, there's podcasts and there's books and there's this and there's that, right? And even so it's still hard, right? But at least there's stuff. And then moms also, and I know that every mom listening is going to know you've got a text group and a WhatsApp group, right? All the other moms, like you're constantly learning about how are you handling this and what should I do in this case, and having someone to even talk to about your feelings and what you're trying to do. I get a group of dads together, and it's often the first time they've ever had a group talking about being a dad and what are the things that are hard, and just even realizing, wait a second, you struggle with that thought when you're trying to get your kids out the door and they're not moving. I didn't know that I wasn't the only one. I mean, it's so isolated. And so not only does it not have to be isolated, and it's not just about, oh, hey, here's some support and here's some good advice, but there's actually this extraordinary set of tools for very quickly getting to where you want to go also, that people can learn. And so, this dad space is one I enjoy being in, and connecting with other dads who have the same interests, and building that community. So bringing that, obviously the stuff is relevant for moms. It's relevant for everyone. It's relevant for leaders. I mean, I do a lot of business work and coaching work and stuff. And of course, it's relevant for anyone who communicates for a living. But I particularly saw that this was missing, and it's a space I love working in. And so it's just kind of endlessly rejuvenating and interesting.
Nice. Okay. So, um, yeah, I can't step into the dad role because I'm a mom, but, dads are normally there to support, protect financially, support, be the disciplinarian. And, that's in the olden days. But, I was just talking to someone recently, and I recognized that in the millennial generations, and I'm not sure, but the Gen Z, dads are now taking an active role in childcare.
Hmm.
So, what is it that you are specifically targeting with your book? What do you think that why did you have a dad program? What is it that dads in this generation is struggling with the most?
Yeah. Well, so, and those things still exist, being the provider, being the disciplinarian, that a lot of times that's a role that a dad takes on both because they feel more like they're fitting into their role, right? You want to be able to do the things that stereotypically help you think like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing, and also, the mom would like that too usually, right? So those
Yeah.
things still exist, and at the same time there's more of actually wanting this relationship, and believing that that's something that is part of it. This the relationship with the kids, guiding their behavior, helping to shape who they are, helping to think about their education. And so it's just, and then of course everybody knows there's less time for everything, and we're all distracted on our phone. So it's just even more and more kind of pressures on, you know the many, we're pulled in more directions, I think, as a result. But I also think it's who would want to miss out on? I think a lot of dads have opened their eyes to the fact that this is this incredible relationship they want to have, and they want to get it
Okay.
right. And
Okay, so
yeah.
that's good. You're focusing on the relationship. You're right, because that's usually where the mothers shine. they build
Hmm.
this amazing relationship because they're the caregivers and they're with the kids all the time. My daughter has a 3 year old, and the 3 year old is all the time hugging her up and being in her lap. And I mean, she is
Three is a
like,
fun
and I'm
age.
saying to myself, how did she ever even go to school when you're around? And she just consumes you. And then the dad is over there saying, I don't mind. But then, she goes away. She's away right now for a couple of days for a job, and he's got to look after the kid. So, you know what I mean? So I understand exactly what you're saying is that, yeah, dads want to have that relationship. And that's usually, you're right, what's missing because they're gone all the time. And most of the times when, the dad is in the provider role, he misses out a lot of times on his kids because he leaves at 8 o'clock in the morning and comes back at 8 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? And then
Hmm.
there's just the weekends. And sometimes the weekends he's working because they bring home work. So it's great that you're focusing on that. So, but all right, but you talk about the amazing dad rather than the perfect dad. What
Hmm.
is your distinction and why is that so important?
Yeah, that's thanks for calling that out. It would be it would be such a shame to be trying to be perfect, and that's not even what your kids need. They need a good role model, and a good role model is going to help you manage real life, right? When things don't go right. And so, being what does it mean to be an amazing dad? And that's one of the things we start out with is just like, well, wait a second. What is everything you actually want as a dad? And most people have never thought about that and even stop to think about anything they want as a dad, so, consciously. But what is everything? What would it really be? And what is, where have we limited ourselves? And a lot of times when you start getting into it, you discover things like this. Well, it's not that I never want to, have any negative feelings, or I never want to mess up in the way I do things. It's that when I mess up, wouldn't it be nice to be able to let it go and be back on track and having a totally different way of approaching my kid in 5 minutes?
Mm.
Like, that's amazing, right? Or how do I actually, even when, let's say, I'm feeling stressed from work, how do I actually really enjoy the little bit of time that I do have and be present during that time? And it's not like, oh, I have to be perfect where I never feel the stress. No. And being amazing is that you get to, it's like, actually learn how to tolerate that and still be present and actually really enjoy it. And so finding these ways to, and if you are away, and this is, you mentioned this struggle, right? That, dads often, there is the societal pressures or the ones we put on ourselves, often are away more, right? And the mom does get to build that relationship more, but the dads are still craving it. And the dads still, it still matters to them a lot, even with the adult kids, and a lot of dads I know, they want to be able to be there, be the one the kids are going to turn to and have those conversations and give them guidance, right? But then also give them freedom. I think a lot of dads kind of like that, take risks, make your own mistakes, but let me stop you from making them wrong, the worst ones, But so like these kinds of things, it's like it's not about. I think what you learn to do is like to how can I be there so that I'm, maximally connect with my kid when they're in that moment, right?
Mm.
How can I meet them and let them know I'm on their side so that they're most open to hearing my advice? And how can I be at peace with the idea that they are going to make their own decisions? So that we can continue to have this relationship, right? It's not like doesn't become this emotional ultimatum. It has to be this way, right? So these are some examples of being an amazing dad that emerge when people start thinking about what do I really want, right? That are not the same as what many people think of when we think of perfect.
Perfect, right. Well, there's no perfect people. There's no perfect moms. There's no perfect dads. There's no perfect person. But you're right. We go for perfection because we want to be, all that we can be to our children. So, what mindset shift has to happen for, you to think, okay, I don't need perfection. I just need to be amazing. And I love how you characterize amazing. Amazing is being there for your children, having that relationship, whether they younger and, adults. Um, yeah, I mean, having someone, as you talked about, yeah, I mean, girls call their moms, and maybe boys call their dads. I think that's how it goes. But
Well, I
when you
think
have
the girls
adult
call their
kids,
moms a lot, and the boys just don't call anyone, just
that's
once in a while. And it's that isolation. That's probably one of the biggest challenges dads and boys face.
I like that. Boys don't call anyway, but some of them call their dad.
Some do. Some do. Yes, sometimes. Yeah.
So, all right. So, what mindset shifts create the biggest breakthroughs when we're looking at, amazing perfection, being there for your kids, kind of thing?
Yeah. So here's one mindset shift, which is at the core of everything that I teach in the book, everything that comes from this field of NLP, which stands for Neuro-linguistic programming. You don't need to know the name just in case you're wondering what I'm referring to. Um, but the core idea, which I think is also the most useful mindset shift, is that whenever you are behaving in a way that you don't like, it's like, oh, I should do this, or I should be more patient, or I should show up more, I should be able to be present, right? Um, or if someone else is behaving in a way that you don't like, if there's any behavior that isn't what you would hope it would be, understanding this will go a very long way. There is a world in which that behavior actually makes the most sense. There is a world, there's a psychological world. People don't just go out and do things to try to cause problems for themselves. They do it because they have a positive intention. There is something they're trying to accomplish that's positive, and it's the best way they know how, given their beliefs, given the emotional state they're in. That affects a lot of how you interpret things, what you think is possible, your energy level, many things, right? Um, it's based on what they expect to be the case. It's based on how they think of themselves. Am I an imposter, or am I, let's say, a wonderful person to have on your team? Am I, in the way, or am I, support? It's like these things affect us so much. That psychological world, there is a psychological world in which any behavior really does make sense. If you try to understand that world, then you can really get somewhere, both with changing yourself or changing someone else. And there's many tools for doing so, but that's the core mindset shift to make, is to realize whatever's happening, there's a world in which that actually makes the most sense. Let me understand that world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right. So let's talk about NLP, neuro linguistic programming. Your work combines neuroscience, psychology, and NLP. Can you explain how these tools help dads change behaviors that seems deeply ingrained? So, a lot of times we parent the way we were parented. So, if you grew up in a household where the dad was the disciplinarian, then you'll be the disciplinarian. So, what exactly are we reprogramming the minds of these dads? What exactly are we doing?
Yeah, and that term reprogramming can sound scary. Also, it's like, well, wait a second, who's programming me? And is it once you're programmed, does that mean you have no control? So that's why I don't really love the name neuro-linguistic
Okay.
programming, but it's the name that it has. But here's what it really is and why it is so different for most people and so powerful. Just like a little bit of history, a couple of minutes, I think helps to explain it, to bring it home. So these are tools that come from the world of psychotherapy. And I know some people might have a reaction. I'm not doing therapy. I don't want to be a therapist. You don't have to be a therapist. You don't have to know. You're not doing therapy when you're using these tools. They're tools that come from that world. I and my co authors spent a couple of years taking these tools and trying to simplify and translate how you can use them in day to day life, right? And showing how the science supports them. But they're tools that come from this world of psychotherapy. And if you think about psychotherapists, what they're doing, these are change makers. These are people who all day, every day, are helping people to make meaningful changes. It could be about how they relate to others, could be about how they manage their own health, it could be about how they work professionally and how they're able to focus. But they're helping people make these profound changes day in and day out of every kind of change you can imagine. And and so there are people who have really worked out a lot of how you do this. Now, where NLP specifically comes from is if you go back 50 years to when all of these new therapies were coming out, cognitive therapy, hypnotherapy, family therapy, gestalt therapy, other therapies you might have heard of, outcome-oriented therapies. There's research behind all of them. It's been 50 years. These things have been studied. The pioneers who were creating these things are now in the textbooks and so forth. But back then, you had all these new therapies coming online, and suddenly people are getting more reliable results and much more quickly. So someone might have had a phobia, been really afraid of dogs or something, or of heights, and work on it for years and maybe get somewhere, maybe not. And then with these new therapies, some people are having breakthroughs in a few weeks, where they're just the phobia is gone, right? And lasting. And so it's like, well, hey, what's going on, right? This was taking the world of psychotherapy by storm. I know this because my parents were in that field. And if you wanted to learn at the time, it was brand new. You just had to go and, let's say, fly to Arizona and watch Dr. Milton Erickson do his work. It was cumbersome. How do you figure out what's the signal and what's the noise? And along came this linguistics professor and a partner of his. They had these tools from linguistics for identifying the signal from the noise. What are the language patterns that these therapists keep using? What are the ones they keep picking up on? Because linguistics is mapping words and language patterns to deeper meaning. And so how does that mapping happen? And they did a wonderful job with the people they studied that went around teaching it. Many people in the world of psychotherapy know about this stuff. People in the world of coaching, a lot of them know about it. But outside of that world, I mean, it's complex stuff. And so it has made it some inroads. A lot of people have heard of Tony Robbins. He says NLP
I
is the
was I
most
was
powerful
just
stuff
gonna
he knows.
I was just thinking of him because, yeah, when you started talking about the fact that, therapists take 10 years, he goes on his workshops where he has like a 4-day thing, and he can actually bring someone up to the stage and fix them with neuro-linguistic programming. So people have gone to therapists for 10 years and he can do it. But anyway, yeah, go ahead. I was
So
just thinking
he's
that.
using,
Right.
and you could wonder, is there something just special about him? But what he's trying to communicate, as far as I understand, is like, hey, these are powerful tools that anyone can use, and he's using these tools because he thinks they're the best that are out there. And
Right.
so what Greg and I did is we spent a couple of years figuring out how do we make this simple for anyone to understand and apply. And then because of my academic background, I also connected all of these tools to the science. We chose the ones that we think are best supported for the book. We also chose the ones that we thought were most relevant for people in their day-to-day lives. And so that's what the book is. The book is actually broader than just for dads. And the
Mhm.
classes I do, I'm taking that stuff and helping dads use it. But so
Okay.
that's what NLP is and why it's so powerful. And so that's why this is really about how do we change ourselves and help others change quickly and in lasting ways. Because this kind of technology exists and people need to know about it.
Okay. Well, let's bring it back to dads because this is our conversation today. Now, I understand neurolinguistic programming for, Tony Robbins will bring someone up stage where, they've had like a phobia or they're stuck or there's something happening in their lives that they need to be changed. But a dad isn't necessarily something's wrong with him.
Right.
So how are we what are we reprogramming? And I'm going to use the word reprogramming
Sure.
because that's exactly what you're doing. You're reprogramming your patterns, right? The
You
patterns
are.
that
You
didn't
had
get
an
you
old
anywhere.
program
Right,
and now a
right.
better one. Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, you had an old program that you just
Right,
kept running. You kept doing
right.
things the same
And now you
way,
have a better one. So
and now you got
yeah,
a
so
better one.
what is it that we're doing for dads and or moms if you want to broaden it.
Mhm.
But, a dad wouldn't say, I need to go to coaching because, I'm stuck
That's right.
as a dad.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So what are we reprogramming?
Yeah, yeah. So some of the things that'll come up are things like, all right, how can I set boundaries and still have my kids be open to telling me stuff, talking to me, right? Because, so essentially, like, boundaries without anger or boundaries without withdrawal, right? How do I do that? And um, I mean, there's so many relevant pieces for this, but that's the kind of thing that I'll frequently hear a dad struggling with something like that, and so some of the tools that I'll teach that we can use, we can all kind of workshop together on these challenges. One of them is called pacing and leading. So you meet someone where they are first before you try to make any change. And so that doesn't mean you say, oh, you're right, but it means you deeply respect their starting point, their reality, pacing, walking at their pace. It's like if you're walking with someone on a path in the woods and they're way behind you, you can get annoyed and keep saying, like, come on. And like they never actually catch up, right? And you're walking ahead, right? And you're both getting annoyed. Or you could actually slow down, walk with them, go at their pace. There's gonna be a stronger connection. And then when they've you're with them, then you can kind of start to speed up and then get them to come with you. And it's that metaphor, but doing it in terms of somebody's feelings or their understanding. Or so, for example, my kids, they get into like they're teasing each other, getting upset, right? It's starting to escalate, and I can jump in and say, like, nobody wants to be the bad guy here, and everybody wants to keep playing. Right? I'm really just join them in what's going on internally. I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to be the one whose fault it was. And I do want to keep playing, right? Both of those things are true. I'm not saying you're right, or anyone's wrong. I'm not casting blame here. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I say, look, this really was your fault. And it's important that you realize that because we have to change that behavior. Sure, fine. I'll do that sometimes.
Mhm.
But I'm going to be more effective at landing that message if I start by pacing them, by joining them. So we would teach this art. And this is a skill that you build. The first time you do it, maybe you meet them a little bit, but then now I'm at a point where I can jump in and I can say something like that. I can say, nobody wants to feel like the bad guy, and everybody wants to keep playing. And you know what happens? It's almost like magic. It just sort of like the struggle dissolves. I don't even have to lead them somewhere. They've been heard, they've been validated, they get what it's really about, and they just kind of move on. I mean, I've seen this happen time and again when I'll approach it that way. And if I've got a kid who's not listening to me, it's like, it's like I end up, let's say I'm trying to talk to a kid or another dad's trying to talk to a kid, and just trying to talk shuts them down. How do I get anywhere? Right? But if I can join them and just be like, it's so annoying that I'm trying to talk to you, isn't it? You don't see how you don't see how this is going anywhere. You just want me to stop, right?
Mhm.
And maybe I even do stop for a while. Maybe I don't stop. But I'm making this attempt to meet them where they are. And this is true. And if I don't acknowledge this, I'm not getting anywhere, right? When people feel heard and understood, they can trust you as a leader. And if
Mhm.
they don't feel heard and understood, you go to the doctor, right? And the doctor's like, oh, okay, you're just sort of distracted and be like, here, take this, try this, right? You're like, I don't know. But if the doctor takes some time and listens, like, so you tried that. You took some supplements? That's interesting. What happened? Right? Okay. And this has been going on for a while, right? And the doctor just really tries to understand. Yeah, it's so scary because you don't know what it means. You really don't know what it means. But I can tell you, actually, this usually doesn't mean anything. It's just a symptom. Try this. Then you're going to actually listen to it, right? The
Yeah.
doctor joined you. They met you
Yeah.
where you are. They paced you. And so that's one of the tools that dads can learn that can just make such a difference for any of these challenges. But, that challenge of like, how do I put down the boundaries? Well, guess what? You pace the kid and then you say, and this is the boundary and here's why. And you don't need the kid's approval. You say, this is what I'm doing and here's why.
Hmm.
Right? And
I like
and
that though.
the
Right.
relationship stays open. Yeah.
Yes. I like that. Because a lot of times dads are the boss. So I like what you said, meet them where they are. And And that actually will work. I mean, once we sure they respect you and they have to listen because you're the dad and they have to say what
Right.
goes. But it starts being an internal battle, especially when they're in the teenager years, because I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that being a parent in teenagers is the most challenging thing. So I love what you said about the pacing, and you meet them where they are, and understand where they're coming from, right? Because a lot of times parents don't listen. They just lay down the law.
That's right.
But when
And you
you but
know
when
that the
you
law needs
listen,
to be laid
yes,
down. I'm
yes,
not saying that's not going to change. You still know that,
yeah.
right? But do you want to just keep laying it down, or do you want them to follow it?
Right, exactly. So that's a good mindset shift, and that's a good, reprogramming. Yeah, kids are people too. They're just little people.
Yes.
Because a lot of times we don't think they're people. We think that their kids are just bossing around. But
That's
you
right.
do what I say.
That's right. And the thing is, the kid knows that you're the authority.
Right.
There's no disputing that. That's the whole point. That's why there's the power struggle, because they know it, because everybody knows it. You don't need to prove it as a dad. It is
Yeah.
the case. Now, you might not be getting the behavior you want, but they know that you're the authority. That's the whole point. That's the whole reason for the struggle.
Yeah, there's an interesting story that I have about this authority thing. My daughter had a girlfriend that ran away from our house to and came to our house because her parents were really bad, according to her. And I went to my pastor and I talked to him about it. And he said to me, you know what? Regardless of how bad the parents are, they're the authority. And she has to learn to deal with authority because it starts with the home and then it goes to the law and it goes to everybody's going to have someone that's an authority, and she has to learn the authority. And that's the first time I heard about that word as parents being the authority.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I like that. But yeah, and I've used that several times. Yes. Your boss is your authority. You got to listen whether you like it or not, right? If the police say, get out of the car,
Right.
he's the authority, right? And you've got to learn to handle authority. So, yeah, I don't know if kids always understand authority things, which is one reason they rebel all the time. But they know there's consequence if they don't listen. So it's great that you're working with making this less of a power struggle and a rebellion. You're teaching dads how to form relationships and how to set boundaries and still meet the kid where they are. I mean, understanding why the kid is behaving that way. A lot of times people pay no attention to kids because you're a child. you just you're
Right.
just do what I say. So that's pretty great that we're having this conversation about, yeah, they're people. They're just little people, and they have feelings and they have thoughts, and it will be a much better relationship if you work with them. And I like that pace with them.
That's right. Work with them. Go at their pace. Understand their feelings. Now, that doesn't mean you give in to their feelings. Like the kid, might be throwing a tantrum, might not want to follow what you're saying, might be like, no, I'm not going to eat dinner. I want to have dessert. And they have feelings. Fine, right? You can you can understand that, and you can meet them there, and you will have more influence. You can never control another person, but you're much more likely to have influence. You can earn the right to influence by understanding that, and acknowledging that that's their starting point. That does not
Mhm.
mean that you give into it if you don't want to. It does not mean that you give up any authority. Quite the contrary. This is how it's that point. Do you do you want to keep laying down the law, or do you want them to follow the law?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not easy being a parent when you have a rebellious kid, right? It's much easier when they go along and understand
It's
that you're the authority.
it's much easier when they go along. They're more likely to go along when you earn the right to influence. And
Yeah.
some kids will make it harder than others.
Mhm.
I tell people you have to earn the right to influence in every conversation with every person. And sometimes that feels like work, but then you realize, actually, this is kind of cool stuff. You start seeing it work out for you, and it's kind of exciting. It's like, oh, wait a second, I've got these new tools. I've got this new toy, right? I
Yeah.
watch me get through this conversation, get what I want, and still feel good, as
It's
opposed
an
to getting what
amazing
I want and
feeling.
feeling bad. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an amazing feeling. And I like what you said. Your book is not just for fathers, but yes, everybody can benefit from that. Being able to meet someone that they're at their point and pace with them, and because it's not only being parents, but you can be in a friendship conversation, or even husbands and wives, and you still need to meet that person and pace them, and understand what they're saying, and because yeah, it doesn't only stop at rebellious kids. It goes into adult relationships. But
Hmm.
yeah, one of the things that happens with dads is that they're prone to anger.
Right.
You give an example there where you've got a kid at a table and they're saying, "I'm not eating dinner, I want dessert." And you're going to say, "You better eat your dinner."
Hmm.
And you get angry because you know that eating dinner is good for them. So
Right.
you want to enforce that, right? Um, so how you talk about emotional regulation,
Yeah.
and reacting in the heat of the moment. What happens really in the brain when a dad gets triggered? How can he regain control? Using that same example where you're at the
Yeah.
dinner table and the kid refusing to eat dinner.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this that one will resonate for anyone who currently has, little kids who are, before, let's say maybe 11 and younger, right? But if you don't, you can think of an example from when they were, and it's still relevant. It'll generalize to what's going on in your life now. So what's happening is it's a response as though there's an actual danger. Because what we've set up in our minds when we actually get to the point of anger is it has to happen a certain way. It has to. It needs to. When the unconscious mind hears need, has to, well, that's like a biological need. Like, if this doesn't happen, there's like danger. There's a problem. I can be hurt or die, right? That's you're triggering this most people know about the fight or flight response. You're getting that going. So, the body is activated in a lot of ways. You can measure things in terms of the amount of sweat on the hands and the heart rate and different levels of cortisol and your part of the brain that has to do with triggering the fight or flight keeps getting reactivated. It's called the amygdala, and you'll see less activity in parts of the brain that are in front that have to do with being able to reframe the context and control that, right? And so you'll actually you can see these kinds of things happening when somebody's getting triggered and getting angry. And I think it comes down to the meaning that we're making of the situation is that it has to be different. It can't be this way. Maybe it's because it would mean something bad about me as a dad that I don't have control, right? Or maybe it would mean that my kid is going to be, we catastrophize something down the road, some problem if they don't do this. And so it has to happen. So one thing that you can start to do is to recognize, wait a second, I'm getting involved in this like has to loop in my mind, but it's not a has to. There's no threat actually happening. And you can't predict the future. You don't know that bad things are going to result from this 10 years from now, right? And no matter what, everyone in the room implicitly knows I'm the authority anyway because I'm the dad. I'm bigger. That's the whole reason why anger works because we are bigger and more powerful and it's scary. And if you make a loud noise as the dad, that gets attention, right? So you've learned that you can do that as like a last resort, as a way of demonstrating I have power. And of course, sometimes you do that and then you get an even bigger reaction and the kid doesn't do it anyway, right? You often don't get what you want, but at least you get to prove you have power, right? Prove to yourself. So these are the things kind of going on. So that leaves open a lot of opportunities for change. So in the moment, sometimes that's hard to remember, but sometimes that's enough to be like, wait, I'm thinking it has to be a certain way. And that's something that people can remember in the moment. Wait, does it have to be? Do I have to? And do I really have to prove my power? No, I don't have to, right? Another thing to remember is I can't control another person, regardless of any situation. You cannot control another person. So, what's within my control here? I want to make sure my kid knows. Now, here's something else you can do, though, ahead of time, because you know you're going to run into this situation. So, you don't have to wait for it to happen. You can and anyone right now, you can think of anyone listening, you can think of that dinner table situation right now. The last time when you lost your cool, you were upset about it. You did shout in anger. Maybe it wasn't the dinner table, maybe it was something else. But you can call that a situation to mind with you and another person, maybe your kid. And what you can do is you can do what we call going meta, stepping outside of it. You actually activate the brain differently when you look at something from a third party perspective than when you do when you're in it. When you're in it, you have more emotions, stronger emotions, so that's going to activate your brain in a certain way. You also, um, because you're looking through your own eyes um, and hearing through your own ears, you kind of there's different kind of understanding, there's different belief, there's different importance that you place on things. And if you first take a third person perspective and then look at it, you actually activate your brain differently in terms of the meaning you make and in terms of the beliefs and the feelings and everything. So you actually access different information. So what we teach people to do is to go meta, go outside, as if you were a third party observer, maybe someone just peeking in through the window, or maybe a friend looking from you, or maybe a fly on the wall. You can pick whichever one you like. And I'm going to see Josh and his kid over there at the table in my mind's eye from a distance. Let them have their feelings. I'm just this third party observer. I'm watching the two of them. And Josh is getting angry, and the kid's over there screaming, right? And I'm seeing that happen. I'm looking at Josh's body posture. I'm looking at the kid. I'm looking at their facial expressions. I'm hearing it from a distance. And now, from this distance, this only works when you first take a distance. You got to first take a distance, look at it, go meta, look at it from a distance. Now I ask, why did that happen? And all of a sudden, people make new meaning out of it. Well, he was stressed out from earlier in the day, so it was more easily triggered. He didn't exercise, so he was more easily triggered. That plus, now this is like the third time it happened this week, so he's starting to feel like the kid's never going to eat well. And this is becoming a thing, and it's starting to take too. He's feeling like it's taking too much of his energy, and so he's shouting. But that's not actually gonna. So he was just doing it because he didn't know what else to do in that moment, and he felt like it would really be a disaster, a catastrophe, right? I mean, I can look at it and make new meaning. And why did the kid do it? Well, because he likes dessert, and sometimes he's been able to just get dessert. That's all. There actually wasn't anything more to it. And yeah, of course he eats. He eats at other times. He's a healthy kid. There wasn't anything more to it, right? And I make new meaning out of it by looking at it. And what happens is research shows the next time I'm in a similar context, I don't even have to try. I'm automatically going to have access to that new meaning. Like, wait a second. I'm getting triggered. I'm catastrophizing. He just wants to eat dessert because he likes dessert, and sometimes he gets away with it. I just need to be clear with him. It becomes easier actually to show up that way if you've done it ahead of time. So there's a number of tools that you can use either in the moment or ahead of time so that you don't react to your triggers in the same way.
Wow, I like that. I like that. And as you were talking, I was actually going there, because you're correct. Um, we always think that it's a life or death situation. That, yeah, if you don't eat, then you're going to have this. When my daughter was little, she refused to drink water. And I said, you're going to have a kidney problems down the road. And I still tell her that now. But I like what you said. We don't know what's going to happen. But we just know that it's important for you to eat and to drink water. And if you have a kid that's refusing to do these things, like, what do you do? But I
But
like,
are they really refusing? Or she drinks water sometimes, right? It's like these scare tactics we try because we feel like it has to be the case. It needs to happen, but the scare tactic just undermines our credibility.
yeah, but I also like what you said. The kid is healthy. Maybe they're gonna eat another time. It's a way. Yeah, it's a mindset shifts. It's reprogramming. It's
Mhm.
it's a lot of things, and it's great because also I know that kids like negative attention. So if they see that you are going ballistic every time they say they want dessert, they're going to do it more and more and more because they like that attention.
Yeah, look at what happened, and now look at how powerful I am, and look at, I'm getting attention. Something's happening.
They
Yeah,
like that
let me
attention. So
watch that movie again.
so if you learn to control yourself and maybe let them have it a couple of times, or if they don't want to eat dinner now, they eat it later. But that is actually pretty good parenting skills, right? I like it. I like it.
Yeah, you can
Oh,
do that. And
wow.
you can choose whatever you want. You could choose to be flexible and say, you could have dessert sometimes, but you don't have to either. If you're able to do that, to let go of this, oh, it has to happen a certain way,
Yeah,
using whatever tool you use to reprogram yourself so that you can say, wait a second, this is just right in this moment. Because you could still say to the kid, I'm sorry, but there will be no dessert without
dessert.
dinner. And that's just always going to be the case. And I'm okay with it if you don't eat anything tonight. They probably will eat something later, but like I'm okay with it because I do know that you're healthy, right? This isn't going to actually be a long-term problem. So you can, whatever boundary you want to set, you can set more easily when you allow yourself to do this kind of reprogramming.
I like it. I love it. I love it. Love it. All right. So we were talking just before Father's Day. So what is the message that you have for fathers today? I mean, and I like the fact that we have a spectrum. We can have a father that's, is his wife is pregnant and he's an expectant dad. We can have a dad that have young children, or we can have a dad that has children out of home, but he wants that relationship. So is there a single message for the whole gamut, or there's different parts?
No, it is a single message actually.
Okay.
And I know that can be surprising for some people. It's like, well, wait, my stuff with my adult kids is very different from this expectant father who doesn't even know what he's
Yeah.
getting into, right?
Right. Right.
But
Right.
that expectant father still has a partner who, they need to communicate, right? And he needs to communicate with himself. So a lot of this is about communicating with yourself and identifying what's within your control. And that's true for everyone. And so the message, I think what I've come to realize over time is that the most simple and important message is, dads, there is actually something for you, right? Because that's where we're starting from. There's basically nothing, right? And just to know, wait a second, I could actually become a better dad relatively quickly in whatever definition you have as a better dad. Right? There is actually something for you. There are powerful tools for being able to change yourself and help your kids to change or help your partner to change, right? These tools are there and you can learn them. And, I have a simple way to start is I have some free downloads on the website. It's just like a one-page kind of thing, tips. We talked about pacing and leading, for example, earlier. So, some tips to actually do that, to start doing that, to help you like just that kind of thing. So those are some easy ways to start. It's a great thing to start, it's a gift for yourself on Father's Day. Say, you know what? Here's some stuff that's actually going to help me do whatever it is I want to do as a dad. There is something for me. And if you're, I don't know if these are like Father's Day gifts because it's, like handing someone a PDF. It's not really, I mean, you can buy the book, right? And uh, I guess if you send me a note and let me know that you've heard me on Myrna's show, then I'll be happy to do a discount for the next time I do the course also. But yeah, I think that's really the message. There is actually stuff for you. Check it out. Have a look at it. You're gonna love it.
I like it. I like it. Right. Yes. It's not focusing on the kids. It's focusing on you as a human being, as the person.
It's all
So,
about
I
you. It's
mean,
what
yeah,
you can
it's,
do as a
yeah,
dad.
right. Yeah, focusing on you. So you're right. The message would be one message for everyone because, yeah, being a dad. All right. So tell our listeners where they can learn more about your programs and your website, social media. And you mentioned, yeah, you said you have some free downloads. So I
Hmm.
guess I'll be on your website. So
Yeah.
let us know that.
All right. So it's Josh Davis PhD for everything. So it's the website is joshdavisphd.com. And the social media is at Josh Davis PhD, and that would be on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. So Josh Davis PhD, that's where you'll find me. And so joshdavisphd.com. You'll also see there's a tab there for dads. They got executives and dads. And so in the dads, you'll see a bunch of different options, but certainly those downloads.
Okay. Awesome. 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 All right. Well, we will have links to Josh's website and his social media on the show page, which is myhelps.us, so that you can just go there and link out to it. As we wrap up, though, I want to say what a powerful conversation with Dr. Josh Davis. Today we learned that becoming an amazing dad isn't about perfection. It is about intention, connection, and continuous growth. Dr. Davis shared how neuroscience can help us understand our behaviors, manage our emotions, and create stronger, more meaningful relationships with the people who matter the most. One of the key takeaways from today's discussion is that small, consistent shifts in mindset and behavior can create extraordinary results over time. Whether you're a father, parent, leader, or someone committed to personal development, the principles we discussed today can help you become more present, influential, and effective in every area of our life. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the Transform Your Mind podcast, leave a review, and share this conversation with someone who would benefit from these insights. To learn more about Dr. Josh Davis and his work, visit his website and explore the Amazing Dad program and other resources designed to help people unlock their full potential. All right, Josh, as we wrap up, any last words?
I would say just remember this. Whatever behavior you're seeing from yourself or from someone else, there's a world in which that behavior makes sense. If you just give yourself the chance to understand that world, suddenly so many opportunities open up for how you can live how you want to live.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Well, thank you for being on the show. This was a great conversation. Like I said, I haven't had any conversations specifically for dads. I'm glad that I was able to bring this conversation before we recognize dads on Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you.
And happy Father's Day to all the fathers that are listening out there. Thank you for listening. Until next time, keep transforming your mind so that we can transform your life. Thank you, Josh. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.